Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report for Friday, May 10th, 2019. And it's the 10th year of Cheongi, the 4th month and 6th day by the heavenly calendar. Tim Elder sitting in for the second king of Cheongi Moon this morning. It is 53 degrees at the palace this morning. And it's a kind of a drizzly, rainy day. We have some showers passing by. Drove through a couple of them as we were coming this morning to the palace. And it's probably going to, be kind of rainy off and on during the day today and tonight. Going up to a high of 71 today with the shower and the thunderstorm around. It was kind of cool yesterday, wasn't it? It was several degrees below the normal for this time of year. But today we're going to be about close to that normal temperature. But then the next few days, it's all going to be going down again. 64 tomorrow for a high, and then Sunday, rainy and 55. That's rather cool for this time of year. And Monday even cooler at just 50 degrees. So Mother's Day probably going to rain. So if you're taking mom out to lunch or something, make sure she's got an umbrella or rain gear. High of 71 today, a chance of rain is 61%. Patchy morning fog, mostly cloudy, a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, warmer. Winds from the south-southwest at 6 miles an hour, gusting to 9. And it looks like about a quarter inch of rain today over a 4-hour period. And tonight, 46 degrees for a low. Occasional rain, otherwise mostly cloudy. Winds out of the west at 5 miles an hour, gusting to 9. And just a little bit of rain, 2/100ths of an inch, it says, over a 1-hour period. So there's still a chance of some rain there, yeah. So we're pretty much near the normal now. And you can see, if we go here, severe thunderstorms batter Houston, southeastern Texas with baseball-sized hail. State of emergency declared in Jackson, Mississippi as flood waters rise. And here we have storm chasers catch extreme close-up footage of monster EF2 tornado that tore through that area. And Trump promises $448 million in hurricane recovery funds. And who will get rain and who will have sunshine this Mother's Day weekend. We're getting rain. We're getting rain. Sun rising at 5:46 a.m. and setting at 8:06 p.m. for 14 hours and 20 minutes of daylight today. All right, let's go to our Rima this morning. And I'm in the book of Judges. I'm in the book of Judges. And I was led to chapter 21 in the book of Judges. But chapter 21 is actually the conclusion of a kind of a story that starts in chapter 19, where you have this member of the tribe of Levites going, the tribe of the Levites with his concubine, and also with his concubine. And they're traveling through, and they come to a city that is the city of one of the cities of the Benjamites, the tribe of Benjamin. And they have no place to stay, but one man, they're sort of going to sleep on the street there in that city, but one man in the city offers offers his home to them. So far so good. But things get very, very bad. Here in chapter 19, verse 22, so as the Levite and his concubine are in this man's house, other people in the city of Gibeah, come and demand that this man produce that Levite. Let them, because they want to rape him. In other words, this is a homosexual rape that they're talking about. And the man who offered his house said, no, don't do that. You don't want to have a homosexual rape. Instead, I will give you my daughter and this man's concubine, and you can do whatever you want with them, with these women. So the people of the city of Gibeah take the concubine, and basically they gang rape her through the whole night, and she dies as a result. This is a very gory, and this is a terrible story we're talking about here, and it's in the Bible. Yeah, but members of this, or the citizens of, or the men of the city of Gibeah, they're described here as sons of Belial, and according to the notes here, sons of Belial is actually word for worthless men is used in the Old Testament of scoundrels. In various places it's used that way to refer to scoundrels who commit various acts of wickedness such as drunkenness, hostility, abuse of power, idolatry, rebelliousness, lying and perverse speech, and sexual perversion. Such people were utter reprobates. The term itself became used by later Jewish writers for Satan, sons of Belial. So anyway, these this gang in the city of Belial gang raped this concubine, and she dies as a result. And so the rest of Israel, well, anyway, it leads to a war between the other, tribes of Israel and the Benjamites. And basically, the Benjamites get almost wiped out as a result of this. Here at in chapter 20, if you go look here, it says, where was it? It said that the 25,000, in verse 46 of chapter 20, so that all which fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men that drew the sword. All these were men of valor. So 2046 says that 25,000 men of the Benjamite tribe were killed, leaving only 600. All but 600 were killed, and the 600 escaped into the wilderness and lived in a cave for 4 months. And so anyway, all the other, except for the 600, all the other men of, well, actually not just men, but also women and children as well, of the Benjamite tribe were killed by the other tribes of Israel. It was kind of a terrible civil war there. But then the people of Israel, the other tribes, decided, well, maybe we went too far. Maybe we went a little bit too far. And said, okay, well, there are 600, we have 600 left. So instead of wiping them out as well, why don't we save them and allow them to grow the tribe again? But the problem is that there are no women, because they've killed all the women and the children. And they've also sworn not to give any of their daughters to the Benjamites because of this crime of this just a gang of just a few people, raping that poor woman who was the concubine. So then they work out a situation where they said, okay, well, you know what? We have this one tribe that's not really sorry about what happened, so why don't we kill all the men in that tribe and see how many virgins there are, and we'll give those to the Benjamites. And so they do that, and then that gives them 400 virgins that they can give to Benjamites, but there's still 200 Benjamites that need wives. And so then they have a ceremony in the vineyard where the virgins anyway, some virgins come out and dance, and they tell the 200 men of Benjamites who don't yet have wives, okay, while these virgins are dancing in the vineyard, you can come and take whatever virgin you want and just take her home and make her your wife. Ah, boy. We get sometimes a request from people saying, help me find a partner so I can be blessed. We don't do it like this. I'll tell you that. This is a terrible, terrible story. But at the end, it says, so anyway, that's how the story ends. But at the end, in the very last verse in this book of Judges, and at the end of the story, it says, in those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. So the book of Judges says, all this terrible stuff happened because there was no king. And everyone was just doing according to what they decided was right. So there was no standard of goodness. There was no standard of righteousness. There was no king to tell people what was good and what was wrong. And so all this kind of immorality was taking place, they said. So it started with this group of men who first wanted to rape this old man. It was an old man who was passing through with his concubine, a member of the tribe of Levi. And they wanted to rape him in a homosexual relationship. But then his concubine was raped instead and basically died as a result, murdered as a result of that. And then that caused a war between the Benjamites and the rest of Israel, all the other tribes of Israel, and so forth. So this is a very shocking tale. And a whole 3 chapters of Judges. There are 21 chapters in the book of Judges, and 3 chapters are devoted to this shocking tale. But anyway, this morning, the verse that I was led to was actually in 21, where the war is finished and they're trying to find wives for the remaining 600 men of the tribe of Benjamin. And the Bible says, now the men of Israel had sworn to Mizpeh, saying, had sworn in Mizpeh, saying, there shall not be any of us give his daughter unto Benjamin to wife. And the people came to the house of God and abode there till even before God, and lifted up their voices and wept sore. So these are the other tribes of Israel. They wept. They say, well, they're weeping because they realized that they had maybe gone a little bit too far in punishing the tribe of Benjamin, just wiping them out because of the action of one gang, which was, it was terrible that this poor woman was killed, but then wiping out an entire tribe, and because of that, they wept sore and said, O Lord God of Israel, why has this come to pass in Israel? Why? Don't blame it on God. Come on, you guys are the ones who did it. Why has this come to pass in Israel, that there should be today one tribe lacking in Israel? And it came to pass on the morrow that the people rose early and built there an altar and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. So they were seeking guidance from God on what to do about this situation that they had created. All right? And the children of Israel said, who is there among all the tribes of Israel that came not up to the congregation unto the Lord? For they had made a great oath concerning him that came not up to the Lord to Mizpeh, saying, he shall surely be put to death. And the children of Israel repented of them for Benjamin their brother, and said, there is one tribe cut off from Israel this day. How shall we do for wives for them that remain, seeing we have sworn by the Lord that we will not give them of our daughters to wives? And they said, what one is there of the tribes of Israel that came not up to Mizpeh to the Lord? And behold, there came none to the camp from Jabesh Gilead to the assembly. For the people were numbered, and behold, there were none of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead there. So you see, there's one city that didn't send people to that meeting. And the congregation sent thither 12,000 men of the valiantest, and commanded them, saying, go and smite the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, with the women and the children. And this is the thing that ye shall do. Ye shall utterly destroy every male and every woman that hath lain by man. And they found among the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins that had known no man by lying with any male, and they brought them unto the camp of Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. All right, so they killed all the men, women, and children of this one city, except they said, okay, if a woman is a virgin, we're not going to kill her. Instead, we're going to take her back so that the men of Benjamin, the remaining 600 men of Benjamin, can have wives. And they found 400 such virgins, but they're still short 200. And the whole congregation sent some to speak to the children of Benjamin that were in the rock of Rimmon. So the rock of Rimmon is a cave. They're still hiding in the cave, all right, because they think that if they come out, they're going to get killed. To call peaceably unto them. So you have to say, well, don't worry, we come in peace. And Benjamin came out again at that time, and they gave them wives which they had saved alive of the men of Jabesh Gilead, and yet so they suffered them not. And the people repented them for Benjamin, because that the Lord had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. And then the elders of the congregation said, how shall we do for wives for them that remain, seeing women are destroyed out of Benjamin? So they still have 200 men remaining, right? And they said, there must be an inheritance for them that be escaped of Benjamin, that a tribe be not destroyed out of Israel. Howbeit we may not give them wives of our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn, saying, cursed be he that giveth a wife to Benjamin. So they can't give them their own wives, their own women, because they've sworn not to do that. Then they said, behold, that there is a feast of the Lord, Shiloh, yearly, in a place which is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goeth up from Bethel to Shechem, and on the south of Lebanon. Therefore they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, go and lie in wait in the vineyards, and see and behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance in dances, then come ye out of the vineyards, and catch you every man his wife of the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. And it shall be, when their fathers or their brethren come unto us to complain, that we shall say unto them, be favorable unto them for our sakes, because we reserved not to each man his wife in the war, for we did not give unto them at this time that ye should be guilty. All right? And the children of Benjamin did so, took them wives according to their number, of them that danced, whom they caught, and they went and returned unto their inheritance, and repaired the cities, and dwelt in them. Terrible stuff. Terrible stuff. And we are, as I read this, feel very blessed that God, that Father has given us clear standards. And if we break those standards, though, this is the kind of terrible thing that can happen. You know, especially the standards on homosexuality, as we see here. That this whole thing started basically as an attempted homosexual rape, turned into a heterosexual rape, but then the response to that was quite harsh, and here in the notes it says about this whole story, because only 600 males were left to Benjamin from the previous warfare in chapter 20, and because the other tribes had sworn not to allow their daughters to marry a Benjamite, the tribe faced possible extinction. The immoral solutions to the problem demonstrate the closing observation of the book. The following narratives concerning Ruth and Samuel, both set in the period of the judges, thus form a welcome contrast to the widespread conditions of increasing national degeneracy in the era of the judges. Whenever God and his word are not honored, the degenerate spiritual and moral standards, debased social conditions, and disordered civil authority pictured in these closing chapters are a likely result, a portrait often drawn by the Old Testament prophets. Had the tribe of Benjamin been totally wiped out, Saul, the King Saul, Esther, and Mordecai, and the Apostle Paul would never have been born. Yeah, because Paul claims to have been a member of the Benjamin tribe. So the book of Judges in these final 3 chapters offers a warning as to what can happen when we do not follow the standards that have been given to us by the Lord. The principle is given to us so that we may have freedom. In the principle it says that freedom can exist only within the principle. Freedom can exist only within the principle. People think that this is a contradiction, that freedom means that you can do anything that you want, but it is absolutely not true. Not true, because when people are, as in these 3 chapters, people are doing anything they want, then basically we wind up destroying ourselves. So freedom can exist only within the context of the principle. In other words, God has created us according to a certain design, to live according to certain rules. You know, if I'm driving a car and I have to follow the instructions given to me by the designer of the car. You know, I can't just drive it any way I want. I can't take my Corolla and drive it on the off-road, can I? It's going to break down. Yeah, I have to know how the car was designed and drive it according to that design. The same thing with human beings. We have to follow the instruction book. And the instruction book, one of the instruction books is the Bible. The Bible is the instruction book. And of course, the Father's 8 great textbooks and teaching materials, those are the instruction books. And we have to live according to those instructions in order to have freedom. In order to have freedom. All right, praise God for those words this morning. Thank you, Father, for giving us that Rhema this morning. All right, let's take a look at what's going on in the news today. As I said, the news is basically God's footsteps in the world, or I like to think of it as the wind patterns on the waves. You know, it shows us where the wind is coming from, when it is coming, and where it is coming from. So early this morning, the additional tariffs against China went into effect because U.S. and China did not come to a trade deal last night, and so the tariffs on $200 billion worth of imports from China have risen from 10% to 25%. That's going to make it more difficult for China to sell its products in the United States. And some people say that that's going to raise prices for U.S. consumers. Well, you know, it hasn't done that until now. You know, President Trump already raised tariffs, but that has not affected U.S. prices. So it's we'll have to wait and see what effect this has on prices in the United States, on inflation in the United States, but it may not be so much. Right now, experts are saying that probably it's not going to have such a huge effect. We'll have to see what effect it has on the Chinese economy as it becomes more difficult for them to sell their products in the United States. See here, it says President Donald Trump raised the stakes in his trade conflict with China as the U.S. increased tariffs on $200 billion in Chinese goods. China's Commerce Ministry said immediately after the midnight Eastern Time deadline for the tariff hike that it would take countermeasures against the American move. It did not announce what its response would entail, but it said it deeply regrets the turn of events. But listen, you know, U.S. and China go to war on the economy. The U.S. economy is much stronger, and much more resilient and flexible than the Chinese economy. Not just because it is larger in size, but because it has more of a free market basis than China. I won't say that the U.S. is completely free market, because it's not. There are a lot of government regulations and government interventions and so forth going on, but at least it is far more based on the free market than the Chinese economy is. Because whenever you have a centrally planned economy, centrally planned economies have this weakness that the planners have to be, basically they have to guess what the market would do if there were no central planning, and then do according to that. So why not just let the market do it? No, we have to plan it centrally. Well, the planners have to be able to guess what the market would do. It had been hoped that a resolution could be reached by the two sides prior to the deadline for the tariff hike, but no deal materialized. Trade talks between the world's two largest economies are set to continue on Friday. That's today. This evening, the United States Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin met with President Trump to discuss the ongoing trade negotiations with China. The ambassador and secretary said that then had a working dinner with Vice Premier Liu He. He's the head of the Chinese delegation, and agreed to continue discussions tomorrow morning at USTR, at the U.S. Trade Representative building. Judge Deere, White House Deputy Press Secretary, said in a Thursday evening statement. Yet despite the ongoing talks about a trade agreement, the Trump administration is hiking duties on the products from 10% to 25%. The move risks widening a trade war that has spooked investors and raised fears about global economic damage. Only a week ago, the White House was boosting hopes that the U.S. and China would resolve their trade dispute this week and potentially have a deal to announce. And Beijing says that they're going to take necessary countermeasures, and we'll see what happens there. Okay. Industries and businesses affected by the tariff hike will not feel the effect right away. It will apply to goods exported after May 10th. According to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representatives, it will not affect products already in transit to the United States. Okay, so Trump has prepared to put even more pressure on China as he pushes for an agreement. The president has threatened to slap 25% tariffs on another $325 billion in Chinese goods that remain untaxed. And so he's continuing to put pressure on China, and we'll see how far he has to go before China finally gives up. Right now, the futures are just barely down, as you see. Shows right now just 24 points down on the Dow, and less than 1% on about 1/6% on the S&P. So right now the futures are pointing to just a slightly lower open on the stock market this morning. Okay, it says here Dow set to decline at Friday open 2 hours ago, but actually the futures have been improving over the last half hour or so that I've been watching it. So it looks like the investors are not really too worried about this rise in tariffs. I think they're guessing that eventually China is going to cry uncle, and some kind of a deal is going to come about. All right, so that's the update on the trade war this morning. Of course, we have this stuff going on in Washington. Comey says Trump. I don't know. Are you guys interested in that? I'm not. I mean, come on. Just we know that President Trump is going to come out good. He's actually the average of polls. There's some, all kinds of polls, and there's an average of polls that comes out, and the average of polls is at an all-time high, highest since his approval rating is at an all-time high since his inauguration. Let's see if I can find that story right away. Trump approval rating is, here we go. USA Today says that. Trump job approval surges to highest level since first month in office. It says here, even as some congressional Democrats call for impeachment proceedings, President Trump's job approval rating has surged to its highest level since his first month in office, according to the Real Clear Politics polling average. So they take a whole bunch of polls and then they average them out. The average approval rating for the president's performance is at 45.1%, according to the average of polls calculated by the site. The last time Trump hit that mark was February 21, 2017. That was about a month or so after his inauguration. The highest number his average job approval reached on RCP was 46% on February 4th. The lowest was 37%, which came on December 13, 2017. The apparent spike in Trump's job approval comes after a flurry of positive economic data and the release of the redacted report from Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation, which did not find a criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russian operatives trying to sway the 2016 election. It also did not reach a decision on whether to charge Trump with obstruction of justice. The most recent jobs report found the unemployment rate at 3.6%, its lowest mark in 50 years. In addition, major stock market indices are near record levels, and the gross domestic product continues to see sustained growth, which the Democrats say, hey, that's all because of Obama. But apparently not all Americans agree. So some Americans are intelligent enough to know that difference. Let's just check, I haven't checked this in a couple of days. Let's just check the Rasmussen poll, daily poll, see what their number is. I imagine this is one of the polls that they're using. Right now, according to this, it shows 49% approve, and likely U.S. voters approve of President Trump's job performance, 50% disapprove. And this is the comparison with Obama. Green is, let's see, I think, what is it now? Green is Trump and blue is Obama. Okay, so he was above Obama there for a while, but now Obama, I guess, is spiked up for some reason during this corresponding period. So anyway, for the last quite a while now, Trump and Obama have been going back and forth, pretty much, as you can see, steady since about, what is that? Since about, where is that? About there. Since, let's see, January, is this since, when is this? 19, January 10, so January of 18. So about the last year and 4 or 5 months, Obama and Trump have been pretty much the same in terms of the approval rating at the same period, same time in their presidency, which is amazing, you know, because that just shows how the media has been so unsuccessful in bringing down President Trump. So even though they've been attacking CNN, just completely giving up their journalistic integrity, no longer being a journalism outlet, but instead being a complete propaganda outlet for anti-Trump forces, and yet still they can't bring down Trump. And yet still Trump is as popular as Obama was in the same time, the same period in the presidency. This must be so frustrating for them, that they thought that they had complete control of the American people, but they don't. They don't. Think what it would be if the media were worshiping Trump in the way they worshipped Obama. Then his popularity, his support would be in the 70s, I'm sure. But anyway, we'll have to see how this continues to develop. I think as Democrats continue to shoot themselves in the feet, Trump's popularity will improve. And right now, he's feeling pretty comfortable about his chances for re-election next year. Yeah, especially given the field of candidates that the Democrats are putting up right now. Yeah. Mitch McConnell reiterates his edict that the case is closed on Russia, does not defend Burr's rogue subpoena. Burr, meaning the Senate Intelligence Committee, subpoenaing Donald Trump Jr. and so forth. Anyway, let's get away from all that stuff because there's more important stuff happening. The U.S. has seized a North Korean ship. That's more important. Trust me. That is more important. This is a cargo ship. You see the photograph here. And it's one of the largest ships that North Korea has been using to sneak coal in and out of the country, or out of the country, actually. One of the important exports that North Korea has is coal. North Korea actually has a lot of natural resources. During the first half of the 20th century, when Japan first occupied and then annexed Korea, the Korean Peninsula, the Japanese sort of economic development plan for the peninsula was that the northern half would be industrialized and the south would be maintained as an sort of an agricultural kind of, not breadbasket, but because they don't really grow wheat there, but rice basket or rice bowl or something. Anyway, rice was the main sort of industry. Rice farming was the main industry in the south during the first half of the 20th century. And also because Japan was also developing industries in northeast China as well. Northeast China. So they connected the natural resources of the northern half of the Korean Peninsula to the industries in the northeast China. And so when the peninsula was divided, the south was the poorer the south was poorer than North Korea. North Korea was better off, was more advanced, more developed than the south. North was producing electricity, for example, on the Yalu River. There's a huge hydroelectric dam was built by Japanese on the Yalu River, and electricity was coming from that, and other hydroelectric plants had been built by the Japanese, whereas the South was not producing its electricity. It was none, I don't know if none, but very, very little electricity was being produced in the South. And so during the process of the division between the two, actually one day the North simply switched the electricity off, and almost basically the entire southern part of the peninsula went dark, and they suddenly had to scramble in order to start getting their own electricity. So North Korea has natural resources, and that's their main export. But now UN sanctions have been imposed so that they're not supposed to be exporting it. But they've been sneaking coal out, and this ship is the largest of those ships that have been used for that purpose. And the U.S. took it over yesterday. They just boarded it in international waters and took it over, and now it's being sailed. It's being it's sailing towards American Samoa, so it's now in U.S. custody. The U.S. has seized a North Korean freighter that was caught shipping coal in violation of U.S. sanctions. The Justice Department revealed Thursday the 17,000-ton cargo ship called the Wise Honest was stopped in Indonesia last year after it was found to be carrying coal. The ship's captain was charged with violating Indonesian law, and last July the U.S. filed an action to seize the ship, according to court papers. Federal prosecutors said the seizure marks the first time the U.S. has taken possession of a North Korean ship for violating international sanctions. Well, recently North Korea has been firing short-range missiles, and so we can expect or suspect that this was done in retaliation for that. So to put more pressure on North Korea, because now they've lost their biggest ship, their biggest cargo ship. The sanctioned busting ship is now out of service, said John Demers, Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's National Security Division. The Wise Honest, North Korea's second largest ship, second largest for carrying bulk cargo, was on its way to American Samoa, U.S. officials said. On Thursday, the Justice Department asked a federal judge to give the U.S. ownership of the vessel through a civil forfeiture action, the same thing prosecutors do when they seek to take ownership of planes or boats used by drug smugglers. Well, this whole civil forfeiture action has been very controversial in the U.S. because it's been used against sometimes very innocent people. But in this case, it was a good tool to use. The Justice Department says the U.S. is entitled to take this action because payments to maintain and equip the vessel were made through American banks. Our office uncovered North Korea's scheme to export tons of high-grade coal to foreign buyers by concealing the origin of their ship, the Wise Honest. I'm not sure why North Korea would name its ship the Wise Honest, but anyway, that's the case, said Jeffrey Berman, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. This scheme not only allowed North Korea to evade sanctions, but the Wise Honest was also used to import heavy machinery to North Korea, helping expand North Korea's capabilities and continuing the cycle of sanctions evasion. And the announcement of the seizure came just hours after North Korea launched suspected short-range missiles, the second such weapons test in a week. But Berman said the effort to take control of the Wise Honest had been in the works for some time and was not spurred by North Korea's overnight actions. Well, you can believe that if you like. The Justice Department said the Korea Songyi Shipping Company used the Wise Honest from at least November 2016 through April 2018 and broke American law by paying U.S. dollars to unwitting banks for several improvements, equipment purchases, and service expenditures for the vessel. The March 2018 cargo shipment yielded payments totaling more than $750,000, the Justice Department said. Okay. So the sanctions are designed to deprive Pyongyang of cash for its missile program and so forth. And so this was a major step by the U.S. government in cracking down on North Korea. Not the largest of their cargo ships, but the second largest. All right. So North Korea is hurting this morning. All right, let's take a short break and we'll come back with more news from a Chinese perspective.
Hi, welcome to Tommy Gun Warehouse. We have a short video for you this afternoon. We want to show you how to work the action on a P380. This is our very small pocket 380 that it has a very strong spring, to work the slot. And this is because it's a very small gun, and we need to have that extra spring tension to actually make the gun work properly. So today I want to show you how to properly work the action. Ladies sometimes find it very difficult, not to mention some men find it difficult to work the slide. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how to hand a firearm to someone properly. The ejection port should be up, the slide is back, and nothing in the magazine well. Then you take this and you hand it to somebody in this manner. They should then verify that it is empty and nothing in the magazine well. And now what I want to show you is how to work the action on this P380. It's sometimes difficult for men and many times difficult for women, but if you know how, it's not that difficult. So Di is going to start out by facing at a 45-degree angle downrange. The gun is going to be, the axis of the barrel is going to be the same axis as her forearm. She's going to keep it closer to her chest, and then reaching over the top with her weak hand, she's going to make sure that this ejection port is clear, that her hand isn't in the way, because you don't want to have an accidental detonation of a primer and injure your hand. So using the upper body strength, you're going to, just work it together, push and pull at the same time, and lock it back. And it's just that simple. You might not get it the first time, but all it takes is a little practice and learning how to use your muscles, and you'll do just fine. Di had started this just a short time ago, and after the third or fourth attempt, she was doing it perfectly. So thanks for listening. Come down and see us at Tommy Gun Warehouse, and we'll show you this P380. Yes, sir.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Friday, May 10th, 2019. Just as we were coming back on air, I found a story that, yeah, this is what I've been saying, and this is actually on NBC News. So I wanted to cover this before we go to what was originally planning. Students who tackle shooters die as heroes. Some experts worry we're setting our kids up to be martyrs. Exactly. We're asking children to make executive decisions, life and death decisions. Do we attack or not? Do we run or do we lock down? One safety expert said. Yeah, you celebrate the student who tackled the shooter and died as a result, but it's unfair that he had to do that in the first place because there was no adult there to take care of the situation with a gun. Yeah. I really think that the media is doing an immoral thing when it criticizes people who want to protect children with firearms, and then praises the student who becomes a martyr by tackling the shooter and dying as a result. So let me just see what this article says. When confronted by a gunman at his Colorado school earlier this week, teenager Kendrick Costello made good on a commitment he had made long ago in the event of an active shooter on his campus. He decided to rush the gunman, taking a fatal shot that gave his classmates a chance to save themselves. The move has widely been hailed as an act of heroism, but some school safety experts and psychologists fear it's indicative of a growing pressure that American school children feel to neutralize threat at their schools, an unfair expectation that they say sometimes puts students in danger where it may not already have existed. They say the feeling of needing to fight back stems primarily from an active shooter response protocol embraced by many schools and workplaces called Run, Hide, Fight, which encourages those in the path of an armed intruder to flee or hide by doing things like using furniture or to barricade doors, and at a last resort to attack the assailant. Not all safety experts support this type of training. Ken Trump, president of National School Safety and Security Services, does school security training for pre-K through 12th grade schools, but encourages educators to do lockdowns or use other alternatives to run, hide, fight, one of several protocols known as options-based training. Okay? A number of experienced school security experts have been warning very strongly against option-based training, and recent incidents leave me with even greater concerns that some people are setting up their kids to be martyrs, he said, referring to Costello's death and a University of North Carolina Charlotte student who also lost his life last week when he confronted a shooter to save others. Options-based training, which also include the alert, lockdown, inform, counter, evacuate, or ALICE protocol, don't factor in Asian developmental factors, Trump said. We're asking children to make executive decisions, life and death decisions. Do we attack or not? Do we run or do we lock down? He said, we're asking them to make executive decisions where science tells us that their brains haven't fully developed. So have adults there who are armed, who can take care of the situation. Don't expect the children to have to save themselves. I mean, this is incredibly unfair. Florida, we had that story, what was it, yesterday, I think, where the governor of Florida signed into law this bill that allows school districts in Florida to decide to have some of their teachers and staff carry firearms in school. You know, they had a lot of conditions. For example, they have to have 144 hours of police-like training was one of the conditions attached to that. But anyway, it's a beginning. It's a beginning. So that a school district can choose to have or to allow their teachers and staff to carry firearms into school. It's a beginning. And that came as a direct result of the Parkland shooting. The safety commission that was set up after that shooting to figure out ways to prevent this kind of a thing in the future decided that it was good. It recommended that it was good to have teachers and staff be armed. That's the way to handle this. Don't expect children to rush the shooter. I mean, come on. These are kids. We're supposed to be protecting our kids, not telling them to rush the shooter and take a bullet. I think it's incredibly unfair that we don't expect the President of the United States to rush a shooter when he's being attacked, do we? No, we protect him with firearms. And when bank robbers are trying to rob a cash, one of these armored trucks with carrying cash, we don't expect the guards or the driver of that truck to rush the shooter. No, they're allowed to carry firearms and they're allowed to shoot back at the bank robbers. We protect our money with guns. We protect our president with guns. The Hollywood elite protect themselves with guns. But our children are expected to rush the shooter. Come on. Incredibly unfair. It's abdicating our responsibility as adults when we do that. Oh, boy, I tell you. But more and more people that are coming around. Fortunately, Florida seems to be coming around to understanding that we need to protect our children with guns, with firearms. Protect them with firearms. Okay, so anyway, that's not what I was going to go to. But anyway, I saw that come up, and it's an important story, so we did it first. Okay, let's see. What was I going to do? Oh, yes. Gonorrhea may be transmitted by kissing. Yeah. French kissing could be unexplored cause of throat gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is the second most common bacterial sexually transmitted infection in the UK. This is independent. That's a British paper writing here. But despite assumptions it can only be passed through genital contact, new research suggests throat gonorrhea may be contracted through kissing alone. So anyway, take that into consideration. But you know, if you have absolute sex and you have only one sex partner during your lifetime, then this kind of thing can be avoided. It can be avoided, but it's irresponsible sex. It's what was the kind of sex that was being discussed in the book of Judges this morning that gives rise to that. Because we don't have a king. We don't have a king. A king sets the constitution and sets the laws and says, this is how we're going to live. And then follow that, and all these kind of situations can be avoided. Okay. Let's see. Mayor Pete threatening Kamala Harris's hold on California. This guy, this Mayor Pete, this guy who has a husband, is really shaking up the Democrats, isn't he, and making it. The better he does, I think, the more likely it is that President Trump is going to be re-elected next year. So I'm not at all disappointed to see him doing well. Especially Hollywood seems to love him, and they are pouring money into his campaign. California Democrats are beginning to gather around Pete. I've forgotten how to pronounce his name now. Anyway, Mayor Pete, leaving Kamala Harris in an increasingly tenuous position. Kamala Harris has been trying her best to act presidential. You know, you can see that she speaks with a lower tone of voice, you know, trying to seem more masculine. And you see her sort of being, you know, very serious like this. This is the kind of look that she's giving, trying to appear presidential. But she's not doing a very good job of it. Kind of easy to see through that. I think that is her basic problem. And so Mayor Pete is maybe doing well in California as a result. Democrat strategist Gary South has watched the Mayor Pete wave break in California shores. I think the amazing thing is that nobody is ceding California to Kamala Harris. No one is abandoning California to the native daughter, which tells you something. He said, why would he come out here and spend 4 days if he thought she had California locked up? Even Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti seems torn by the developments, although his commentary would suggest that he sees the writing on the wall. I love Kamala Harris. She's a friend, he hedged, but said Mayor Pete is one of my closest mayor friends. Mayor Pete is the flavor of the month. He's really excited people, particularly in the LGBT community. Los Angeles Attorney Jessica Levinson said, though she admits Harris actually has more specific policies than he does. Well, he has no policies, actually. And this is what Jimmy Carter did in '76. I remember Jimmy Carter did not tell people what his policies were going to be when he was running for president in '76. And that was one of the things that sort of bothered people, but also it made it more difficult for people to attack him. And he was able to use that strategy to win the Democratic nomination and even to win the presidency as a result. So basically, Mayor Pete is following that strategy as I see it. Jimmy Carter came out of nowhere as the governor of a very small state, as a rather unimportant state. And then here we have Mayor Pete coming out as the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. I mean, come on. You're a mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and you run for president? And yet he's making a go at it. Yeah. And one of the reasons is that he's not telling people what his policies are going to be. So it's difficult to attack him. What are you going to do? Attack him because he's gay? Whoa, in the Democratic Party, that is forbidden. You cannot attack a gay person, you know. Okay, he's white. Okay, that he has that negative. Okay, but he's not old. He's young. Okay, so you're going to attack him because he's white? I guess that's really the only negative he has. But that's kind of difficult because there are, you know, a lot of white voters, even in the Democratic Party. So yeah, he's following the Jimmy Carter model. Yeah. Melissa Rivers, star of Fashion Police and The Apprentice, agrees, though she herself is a staunch supporter of former Vice President Joe Biden. And Mayor Pete does interest me because he's so multifaceted, she said. Multifaceted. I'm not sure what facets she sees, but anyway, it's going to be very hard. If you don't like that he's gay, you'll like that he's a military guy. Oh, that's right, he is a veteran, yes, that is true. If you don't like that he's a military guy, you're going to like that he's a mayor. I'm not sure I see that. I mean, there are lots of mayors. It backs people into a corner because there's nothing to attack him on, because he's not giving out his policies. See, that's the Jimmy Carter model. Susie Tompkins Buell, a major Democratic donor and friend of Hillary Clinton, previously came out strong in support of Harris's candidacy. Now she's wavering. She has announced that she will be fundraising for Mayor Pete. He adds a rich, deep, thoughtful, and resonant voice to the conversation, and it's evident that the country is responding to him. She wrote in an April email to friends and allies, "He's a special guy and formidable candidate." We have a lot of people who are very candidate curious. Mayor Garcetti concluded, Kamala has a ton of love up and down the state, but people might say that doesn't mean I'm going to shop around. Maybe I'll keep her as my senator and go with somebody else as president. Yeah. So, Kamala Harris in trouble in California. That's very interesting. This guy, he has a husband. He has a husband. And the Democrats love him. Yeah, well, what can you say? They were made for each other. You know, Judges 19, or what is it? Judges 20, Judges chapter 20, yeah, okay. Homosexual rape started a civil war. Boy. Ugh. Anyway, let's do one more story before we go to break. Ted Cruz, wow, I haven't heard of him in a long time. Rip's decision to subpoena Donald Trump Jr. It's time to move on. The Republicans in the Senate Intelligence Committee are not standing up against this at all. In fact, they have a majority on the committee, and they're subpoenaing him. It's the Republicans that are attacking Donald Trump Jr. That's the amazing thing with that. I'm sure President Trump will do something about that when the time comes. Richard Burr, he's the chairman of that committee, runs away from reporters asking about Trump Jr. subpoena. Let's see what's going on with that. This is a very curious situation, isn't it? Richard Burr, Republican of North Carolina, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, who just issued a rogue subpoena of President Donald Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., ducked and covered from the media amid the backlash against his attempt to haul Trump Jr. before the committee. Burr, who issued the subpoena in contravention of an edict from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell that the Russia hoax is now case closed, ran away from reporters on Capitol Hill on Thursday when asked about the overwhelming GOP backlash against the move. Now, I'm not sure what this guy is trying to prove. Burr's decision to issue the subpoena has sparked fierce backlash on the right. As of now, not a single Republican has publicly defended him, but a growing number keep joining the ranks of those criticizing the move. Even GOP members of his own Senate Intelligence Committee have not publicly backed him. Bright News asked every single one of their offices if they support the subpoena and if they support Burr remaining chairman of the committee after this move, but not a single one would publicly back Burr on either front. Those Senate GOP Intel Committee members who are not publicly backing Burr's subpoena or continued chairmanship include these people. These are all the officers of Republican members of the Senate Intelligence Committee. In fact, Core9 has now, in response to Burr's rogue subpoena, publicly called on the Senate Intelligence Committee to cease its investigation at once, saying he will be speaking to Burr about it. And other key senators and members of the U.S. House, including Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, have also ripped the move. Yeah, so this guy, Burr, I'm not sure what, is it a deep state thing? I guess it has to be, right? I mean, how else would you explain this? Several others have joined the parade of Burr bashing, but there is hardly anyone standing up for Burr, not even himself, as he ducks away from the media on Capitol Hill in the wake of his move. Yeah, who is behind this? What is behind this? It's a curious thing. Must be some kind of deep state thing. But anyway, I'm sure the truth will come out soon. Let's take a break now, and we'll come back in a few minutes after let you see some advertisements. Yep.
What is thy bidding, my master?
There is a great disturbance in the force.
I have felt it.
We have a new enemy. The young moon boy who held the rod of iron king blessing. I had no doubt he is the offspring of the late Reverend Sun Young Moon.
Master, who is this Reverend Moon?
Never mind, you're too young to know. The point is, he could destroy us.
But he's just some guy with simple people in the wilderness with low viewings on his YouTube channel.
The Father in heaven is strong with him. The son of Reverend Moon must not have more media attention.
If he can be turned, he can become a powerful ally.
Yes, he would be a great asset.
Can it be done?
Well, he seems to be set in his ways.
Then I'll throw money at him, like what I've done to many weak-minded fools.
Master, he turned down 2 billion galactic credits to protect his father's legacy against his own mother.
Damn! The boy has some integrity. Well, what about his brother Justin Moon, the Blasters manufacturer?
He turned down allying with the Rockefellers. Twice.
Alright, so the Moon Boys are set in their ways. What of his wife and offspring?
His queen has undying loyalty to her king as a strong general in the household, and their family has clear understanding of the father ruling with Christ's authority.
Crap! Well, let's forget about the old fogies in Sanctuary. What about the millennials there? Hopefully the dumb and naive has arrested my minions.
They are called the Peace Police Peace Militia. They were trained under the Second King and uphold an honor code of biblical proportions that transcends the riches of the known galaxy.
Are you freaking serious? They have more security than the Death Star! So be it! Go! Destroy them! Destroy them all!
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Friday, May 10th, 2019, the 10th year of Chungi, the 4th month, the 6th day by the heavenly calendar. So, Facebook's co-founder is saying that it's time to break up Facebook. This guy here what is his name? He writes, this is a op-ed piece that he's writing in the New York Times. What is his name? What was his name? Anyway, he's saying that Mark Zuckerberg has too much power, and it's important that the government move to control that. Looks like I did something to make it stop working. Let me see if I can refresh this page. Okay, here we go. So this is a story in the New York Times, and he says that here Mark's influence is staggering, far beyond that of anyone else in the private sector or in government. He controls 3 core communication platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, that billions of people use every day. Facebook's board works more like an advisory committee than an overseer because Mark controls around 60% of voting shares. Mark alone can decide how to configure Facebook's algorithms to determine what people see in their news feeds, what privacy settings they can use, and even which messages get delivered. He sets the rules for how to distinguish violent and incendiary speech from the merely offensive, and he can choose to shut down a competitor by acquiring, blocking, or copying it. Mark's influence is staggering, far beyond that of anyone else in the private sector or in government. He said the same thing twice there. Mark is a good, kind person, but I'm angry that his focus on growth led him to sacrifice security and civility for clicks. I'm disappointed in myself and the early Facebook team for not thinking more about how the newsfeed algorithm could change our culture, influence elections, and empower nationalist leaders. And I'm worried that Mark has surrounded himself with a team that reinforces his beliefs instead of challenging them. The government must hold Mark accountable. For too long, lawmakers have marveled at Facebook's explosive growth and overlooked their responsibility to ensure that Americans are protected and markets are competitive. Any day now, the Federal Trade Commission is expected to impose a $5 billion fine on the company, but that is not enough, nor is Facebook's offer to appoint some kind of privacy czar. After Mark's congressional testimony last year, there should have been calls for him to truly reckon with his mistakes. Instead, the legislators who questioned him were derided as too old and out of touch to understand how tech works. That's the impression Mark wanted Americans to have, because it means little will change. We are a nation with a tradition of reining in monopolies, no matter how well-intentioned the leaders of those companies may be. Mark's power is unprecedented and un-American. It's time to break up Facebook, he says. So anyway, he's calling on the government to take action against Facebook. This is, let me get his name down here. I think it must be at the end of the story. It's not at the top. Wow, what a long story this is. Anyway, he goes on and 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 on. But how apparently he does not approve of Mark Zuckerberg. What is this? Just breaking up Facebook is not enough. We need a new agency. Oh, a new agency empowered by Congress to regulate tech companies. Oh yeah, make government bigger. A new agency. There, that'll do it. Its first mandate should be to protect privacy. A government agency to protect privacy. Yeah, right. Government is what keeps invading our privacy. Chris Hughes, here we go. Chris Hughes is co-founder of Facebook, is co-chairman of the Economic Security Project, and a senior advisor at the Roosevelt Institute. Okay, so that is the co-founder of Facebook saying that it needs to be broken up. Okay, all right, but he says it's not enough. You also have to have a new agency. Measles. By European measles outbreak, 100,000 hit by European measles outbreak, spreading at an alarming rate. The establishment has been blaming the anti-vaxxers, people who don't like vaccinations for this outbreak, but it's getting to be so large now that I think they have to find some other excuse. 100,000 in Europe, are these all anti-vaxxers? More than 100,000 people across Europe who have been infected with the potential deadly measles virus. which is spreading at an alarming rate, WHO has confirmed. The World Health Organization said the rise in cases was unprecedented for a preventable disease. They revealed they are rapidly ramping up their response to the outbreak, which has spread over 2 years based on the growing number of children and adults affected by and dying from the disease. Measles is one of the leading causes of death in the world from a disease that can be cured by a vaccine. It poses a particular danger to children and gives sufferers excruciating rashes, fever, and inflamed eyes. WHO revealed that since the beginning of last year, more than 90% of countries across the continent have together reported over 100,000 measles cases. All right? Okay, so they're still talking about persistent pockets of non-immunized or under-immunized individuals. But I think they're going to have to find another excuse for this, namely the fact that there are large populations of people moving from poorer countries into places like North America and Europe. That might have something to do with it. That might have something to do with it, because the anti-vaccine movement did not start just a couple of years ago. It's been going on for a while. And so when you suddenly have this large outbreak of measles, you have to figure that it's probably some other cause. What's been going on in the last couple of years? What has been going on at the same time that we see this measles outbreak? Well, we have this very large population of people moving from one area of the world into another. That might have something to do with it. That might have something to do with it, I think. Yeah, it seems logical to assume that. But the establishment is not looking in that direction. They keep looking at the anti-vaxxers. They're the ones that they want to target. Trump top intelligence and military advisors hold an unusual meeting at the CIA on Iran, officials say. It's extremely rare for senior White House officials or cabinet members to attend a meeting at CIA headquarters, but that's what happened. Yeah, maybe war is coming. Maybe war is coming there. So far, President Trump has not started a war, despite what happened under Nobel Peace Prize laureate Barack Hussein Obama. Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize when he first started his presidency, and then went out to start all kinds of wars. In a highly unusual move, National Security Advisor John Bolton convened a meeting at CIA headquarters last week. John Bolton, yeah, that's the first name. Whenever there's talk of war, John Bolton is there. This guy, John Bolton. I wish he wasn't, within 10 miles of President Trump. He's bad news. I tell you, he's bad news. Anyway, he convened a meeting at CIA headquarters last week with the Trump administration's top intelligence, diplomatic, and military advisors to discuss Iran, according to 6 current U.S. officials. The meeting was held at 7 a.m. on Monday, April 29th, and included CIA Director Gina Haspel, Acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joe Dunford, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats, 5 of the officials said. National security meetings are typically held in the White House Situation Room. The 6 current officials, as well as multiple former officials, said it is extremely rare for senior White House officials or cabinet members to attend a meeting at CIA headquarters. I wonder why. Why did they have it at CIA headquarters? Maybe John Bolton didn't want other White House staff to know what was going on. I think that's possible, because he's finding resistance. Trump says that he tempers John Bolton's instincts or trying to move. So maybe John Bolton is seeking allies for a war at the CIA or among these other people. The official said the discussion was not about intelligence that led to the decision in the following days to send a carrier strike group and bombing task force to the Middle East, but did not describe what the meeting covered. 5 former CIA operations officers and military officials said that in the past, such meetings have been held at CIA headquarters to brief top officials on highly sensitive covert actions, either the results of existing operations or operations for new ones. So I guess there's something else going on. that we don't know about. The U.S. has a very specific intelligence gathering capability on Iran that is only able to be reviewed at CIA headquarters, two former officials said. Very specific intelligence gathering capability on Iran that is only able to be reviewed at CIA headquarters, two former officials said. Okay, that sounds interesting. Another possible reason to hold a meeting of senior White House officials at Langley is if there is a disagreement about what the intelligence shows on a particular subject, said John McLaughlin, a former acting CIA director. Then Vice President Dick Cheney frequently traveled to the CIA to grill analysts about intelligence, McLaughlin said. Critics later accused Cheney of seeking to cherry-pick intelligence, suggesting that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, a charge he denies. The CIA and other agencies wrongly assessed that Iraq had WMD. Well, they were conned basically by the, they were conned by the Iraqi politicians in exile, people who wanted to use the U.S. As a vehicle to restore them to power. You have to be careful of, when the U.S. is dealing with rogue nations, there are always sort of governments in exile or people who want to go back to the country and then take charge of that country. And they dream of being able to piggyback on U.S. forces. And I think Iraq is one of those examples. That's how we were conned into going into Iraq. Never should have gone in there in the first place. A spokesman for the National Security Council declined to comment on the April 29 meeting. And I'm afraid that the same thing is happening in Venezuela, by the way. Anyway, the meeting came amid rising tensions between the U.S. and Iran as the Trump administration piles pressure on the Tehran economy through crippling sanctions, so forth and so on. All right, so we don't know. They're telling us that we don't know something. Basically, that's what it is, the story is about. And we hope that we can learn more in the future. Yeah. Okay, let's see. We had some other stories here. Let's look at what Alex Jones is talking about. Illegals bring measles into the U.S. as April sets record for border crossings. Border agents detaining 2,400 families daily. Over 25% are fake. I think I heard that they're doing DNA tests now at the border. That might ferret out some of them. And we have another problem here with this computer that was going so well, and then it stopped working. All right, let's take a short break, and we'll try to fix the computer and come back in a minute or so.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
welcome back to the King's Report. I closed my Chrome and working with Edge now to see if that works better. Here we have students walk out on Democratic politicians pushing gun control at school shooting vigil. Students said their grief was being politicized and chanted mental health. Students stormed out of a Wednesday night vigil for a victim of this week's school shooting in Colorado after Democratic politicians took the stage to push gun control on the grieving crowd. This is getting to the point of complete, total. I mean, this is getting to the point of being criminal. They want to take guns completely away from all the good people, so that they have no choice other than to charge the shooter and take a bullet and die as a result, and be martyred. This is the Democrat strategy. This is going beyond irresponsible, and it's becoming criminal. And I'm glad that the students are beginning to wake up. You know, the next generation is going to be incredibly pro-gun, I can tell you that, because they're going through this experience where the adults are refusing to protect them. Many adults are refusing to protect them. I think the younger generation is going to become very angry at this, and there's going to be a huge backlash in that they're going to become very pro-gun. They're going to get themselves armed, they're going to get themselves trained, and they're going to start carrying daily as soon as they become old enough. I think that's what's going to happen here. This is absolutely insane. It is insanity. It is insanity. The Colorado Senator and presidential candidate Michael Bennett joined State Rep Jason Crow to take advantage of the tragedy by calling for stricter gun control. USA Today reporter Trevor Hughes covered the event on Twitter, saying students from the STEM shooting in Colorado stormed out of a rally organized by gun control advocates Wednesday night after growing angry about the politicization of their trauma. Students who were upset by the anti-gun rhetoric protested by chanting, "Mental health, mental health." And Denver 7's James Dougherty reported, many students outside are telling me that they are mad that they are being used as pawns for politicians to make speeches. Students who took this stage and spoke on the microphone said that they didn't want to be used to promote gun control. The vigil was organized by a gun control group called the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, who invited the Democrat politicians to speak. It's more than irresponsible. It's insane and it's criminal. And the Democrats are going to reap the results of this when they find that the younger generation is going to be extremely pro-gun. All right, border agents detaining 2,400 families daily. Over 25% are fake. France arrests a refugee imam suspected of helping migrants cross the English Channel. Okay. And Watch Live, Democrats caught bringing diseased immigrants into the country. And humanity won't submit. Here's how you can strike back against censorship. I keep trying to get banned. I keep posting stuff from InfoWars and Paul Joseph Watson on my Facebook page. I haven't checked this morning, but I don't think I've been banned yet. Yeah. Facebook co-founder, Trump holds China accountable. Trump ruthlessly marks Democratic presidential candidates. Democrats show contempt for the American people. How could that be news? All right. Okay, and so these are the latest stories. Coca-Cola releases crescent moon logo for Ramadan. My. Oh, look at that, 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 look at that. Look at that. Do you need any more reasons to stop drinking Coca-Cola? Oh my goodness. Let's just look at that for a minute. Oh boy, talk about a picture being worth 1,000 words. What did it say? Things go better with Coke? Wasn't that the advertising slogan? I guess. Oh, it's in Norway. It's in Norway. to Norway. They're doing this in Norway. Coca-Cola is set to launch a new logo in Norway. Yes, the newest Muslim majority country. No, just kidding. It's not Muslim majority yet, but it's on its way. It's because it's going. It will. Norway will become Muslim majority before too long. Dedicated to Muslims during the holy month known as Ramadan. The campaign will feature advertising posters with the familiar Coke logo surrounded by a crescent moon, an iconographic Islamic symbol. Wow, 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 wow. Coca-Cola's Norwegian marketing manager. Wait, is Islam going to sue Coca-Cola for violating their trademark of the crescent moon? Let's check on that. Ah, yes. Family Federation suing us for using the Tongil symbol. Yeah, Coca-Cola's Norwegian marketing manager Johanna Kasonovich said the new logo is part of the brand's commitment to diversity and inclusion, of course, yes. And of course, during the Christmas season, they have one with the cross, right? No, they don't. Diversity and inclusion means including Muslims, excluding Christians. That's what it means, yes. In Muslim countries, we have a long history of highlighting Ramadan, just as we in this country have tradition for Christmas campaigns. Really? Now, for the first time in Norway, we want to celebrate Ramadan together with Norwegian Muslims. Asked if the company is worried about backlash, Kosanovich said, it's okay if some don't share their vision of cultural inclusion. Yeah. We believe most share our values, such as the importance of community and joy, so we understand that not everyone will like us. To take an active stand for cultural inclusion, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. The new campaign will kick off Friday, today. I guess it's already kicked off. This is Friday. Yeah. Things go better with Coke. Yep. Oh, boy. Time of judgment, time of judgment, time of judgment. NSA, I think this has just come up, hasn't it? I think it just came up. Oh, well, this is a... Oh, this is, I see, this is the MSN feed. Microsoft, they choose your news for you, yeah. They have this one about the God of Chaos asteroid heading toward Earth, and NASA is excited about it, they say. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll see what happens there. All right. I'm a little bit discombobulated here because I'm using a different browser. But we'll get over this. It looks very different, doesn't it? Illegal immigration at 9 times the rate of 2017, but the Democrats continue to try to pretend that there is no emergency. And let's see. Alleged Colorado juvenile transgender shooter identified. Yeah. He was a woman trying to become a man, or she was a woman trying to become a man, I think. And so she decided to shoot up a school so as to become a man. And Kobach U.S. is sinking ship with the growing immigration crisis. Chris Kobach. Former Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach said the United States is a sinking ship when it comes to the current mass flow of illegal and legal immigration. During an interview with SiriusXM's Patriots Breitbart News Daily, Kobach said the country is in crisis mode in terms of soaring illegal immigration at the U.S.-Mexican border, while current legal immigration levels that admit more than 1.2 million legal immigrants every year remain the same. We're in a sinking boat right now in terms of our actual current immigration crisis. People often use that analogy on immigration. You've got to plug the holes before you start bailing water. Talking about legislation in Congress is kind of like designing a new bailing system for the distant future. We've got an imminent crisis right now. Plugging the holes has got to address how the asylum system has been busted wide open. There are specific things that can be done without Congress that will require determined action by the president and his team. A few actions that can be taken with the approval of Congress, Kobach said, is implementing a safe third country agreement with Mexico that will effectively ban border crossers and migrants from arriving in the U.S. from Mexico to claim asylum. If we had that with Mexico, then the people fraudulently claiming asylum, or if there are a few who have legitimate asylum claims walking through Mexico and then setting foot in America, they would not be eligible. They would have to claim asylum in Mexico because that would be the first safe country that their feet hit, Kobach said. If we had that, it would immediately free up the system. Corbett said President Trump's administration must also stop giving out work permits to border crossers while they await their asylum hearings, which are often years down the road. We are giving work permits to these individuals who are coming in right now. The work permits last as long as they are paroled in the United States, and then they'll be here for 6 years waiting for their asylum hearing, and they can work that entire time. So imagine us bringing in addition to the 1 million plus green cards, in addition to all of the H-1B, H-2B, all the different work categories, we are bringing in a rate of less than 100,000 a month, additional flood of people with newly minted work visas given to them because of very poor policies, which date to the Obama administration, but are now still continuing in the Trump administration. The number of people beyond U.S. citizens who are coming in to the workforce right now is staggering, both because of crisis at the border and because of our long-standing policies of giving so much work visas and green cards out. Well, so how is it that the unemployment rate remains so low? It may be the way that the statistics are calculated. It may be that the unemployment is actually higher than what we have been led to believe. That's very possible. And government statistics are not always what they seem to be. For example, inflation is not always what it seems to be. For example, if a price of a car goes up, if a price of a new model car goes up by say 20%, let's say it goes up from $20,000 to $24,000, the government will not necessarily calculate that as a 20% increase in the price. They will say, well, look, the new car has additional features, and you have to take in the value of those features. So if you exclude those new features, then the car the price only went up by about 1%, for example. They may say that 19% is due to the new features. So but for the person buying the car, I mean, you still got to shell out 20% more money. So that's how the government cooks the figures. So 3.6% unemployment may not necessarily mean that, and especially if all these people are coming in, and this person is saying that we're really in a situation right now, it's an emergency situation. Is it really 3.6%? Someone has to look into that. Currently, as Breitbart News has reported, Border Patrol agents are apprehending nearly 100,000 border crossers and migrants every month at the southern border. Due to the lack of federal detention space and the recent expansion of the catch and release program, many border crossers are released into the interior United States. So are the government statistics taking these people into account, this 100,000 people coming in every month? Are 94% of them finding jobs? Kind of doubtful, isn't it? So then as more people come in like this, you would expect that the unemployment rate would be going up if the unemployment rate is taking these people into consideration. But no, because the unemployment rate really only says, okay, people looking for jobs. But, how do you know who's looking for a job and who's not? And so I think these people are kind of under the radar in terms of government statistics. By the end of the year, researchers project that about 500,000 border crossers and illegal aliens will have successfully crossed through the southern border into the U.S. undetected by Border Patrol. This is in addition to the roughly 630,000 aliens who are likely to overstay their visas by the end of the year. And yet, on the other hand, we're told that the unemployment is very, very low. Something is going on. Something is going on. All right. Let's see. Let's take another look here. Okay. Come on, don't freeze on me now. Don't freeze on me now. All right, let's take another short break, and we'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to the King's Report for Friday, May 10th. We have some stories about China and the massive surveillance system there. China really has done an incredible job using tech of developing a system that can actually surveil pretty much all of their population, or at least those who have smartphones or can afford a smartphone. And I'm guessing that they're encouraging more people to have smartphones. This is a story in the Wired.com site about a woman in Xinjiang. I'm guessing this is a Muslim woman. How she got a smartphone in 2011, and she loved to take pictures of her children, exchange strings of emoji with her husband while she was out. And then in 2013, she downloaded WeChat, the Chinese social messaging app. Not long after, rumors circulated among her friends the government could track your location through your phone. At first, she didn't believe them. And then in 2016, police started making routine checks on her home. And her husband was regularly called to the police station and said that they were suspicious of his WeChat activity. And so anyway, it got so bad that they decided to move to Turkey from China. And the husband, worried that she would be arrested, sent her ahead while he stayed in Xinjiang and waited for the children's passports. The day I left, my husband was arrested, she said, and then when she arrived in Turkey, her phone stopped working, and by the time she had it repaired, all her friends and relatives had deleted her from their WeChat accounts. They feared that the government would punish them for communicating with her. She was alone in Istanbul, and her digital connection with life in Xinjiang was over, apart from a snatched Skype call with her mother for 11 and a half minutes at the end of December 2016. Communication with her relatives has been completely cut. Sometimes I feel like the days I was with my family are just my dreams, as if I've been lonely all my life ever since I was born. She's now alone in a working class neighborhood in Istanbul. And so she is one of around 34,000 Uyghurs in Turkey. She is unable to contact any of her relatives via phone, WeChat, or any other app. And so for Uyghurs in Xinjiang, any kind of contact from a non-Chinese phone number, though not officially illegal, can result in instant arrest. Most Uyghurs in Turkey have been deleted by their families on social media, and many wouldn't dare try to make contact for fear Chinese authorities would punish their relatives. It's just one of the ways President Xi Jinping's government maintains a tightly controlled net of surveillance over the Uyghurs in China, and it has a ripple effect on Uyghurs living all around the world. And so now, so this is Uyghur. Xinjiang was, which means new frontier in Chinese, was brought under the Communist Party control in 1949. During the latter half of the 20th century, Uyghur independence was a threat that loomed over the party's agenda. The government tried to stamp out separatism and assimilate Uyghurs by encouraging mass migration of Han Chinese, China's dominant ethnic group, to Xinjiang. Of course, the Communist Party did the same thing with Tibet. The Han Chinese make up about 90-some% of all Chinese. And they want to, they claim, you know, to have, well, we have 50, I forget how many minorities they claim to have, 52 or 4 or something like that. And they have, you know, all this propaganda about how all the minorities get along and everybody gets along. But what they're actually doing is destroying the minorities' culture and replacing it with a Han Chinese migration. And during the 90s, riots erupted between the Uyghurs and Chinese police. The Chinese government defined the riots as inhuman, antisocial, and barbaric acts perpetrated by separatist groups. The Amnesty International, meanwhile, described the 1997 protests in Xinjiang as peaceful demonstration turned massacre, quoting exiled Uyghur activist, I have never seen such viciousness in my life, she said. Chinese soldiers were bludgeoning the demonstrators. So it's not just the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989, June of 1989. which the 30th anniversary is coming up now. These kinds of massacres have occurred under Communist Party of China rule again and again. After 9/11 attacks, the Chinese government took a page from George W. Bush's War on Terror and began targeting separatist groups in Xinjiang. So they used that as an excuse. 9/11 was used in the United States as an excuse to concentrate more power, much more power in the federal government. And China also used that as an excuse to crack down on minorities in China, especially the Muslim minority. In 2009, bloody ethnic riots broke out between Uyghurs and Han Chinese in Urumqi, the Xinjiang capital. Police put the city on lockdown, enforcing an internet blackout and cutting cell phone service. It was the beginning of a new policy to control Uyghur population digitally. And so in recent years, China has carried out its crackdown on Islamic extremism via smartphone. In 2011, Chinese IT giant Tencent Holdings launched a new app called WeChat, known as Undidar in the Uyghur language. It quickly became a vital communication tool across China. The launch of WeChat was a moment of huge relief and freedom, said Aziz Isa, a Uyghur scholar who has studied Uyghur use of WeChat alongside Rachel Harris at London's SOAS University. Never before in Uyghur life had we had the opportunity to use social media in this way, Isa said, describing how Uyghurs across class divides were openly discussing everything from politics to religion to music. By 2013, around 1 million Uyghurs were using the app. Harris and Isa observed a steady rise in Islamic content, most of it apolitical, but some of it openly radical and oppositional. Isa remembers being worried by some of the more nationalist content he saw, though he believes it accounted for less than 1% of all the posts. Most Uyghurs, he said, didn't understand the authorities were watching. So, this is not just in China. This is not just in China, folks. This is here. This is Facebook. This is Facebook. This is Twitter. Most Uyghurs, he said, didn't understand the authorities were watching. So you can take that word Uyghur and you can put in any other, most Americans, most British, most Japanese, most Koreans didn't understand the authorities were watching. All right? They are watching. They are watching. Huge databases are being created. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to think this way. It's true. It's true. Because data is power. Data is power, and people want power. The kind of unrestricted communication on WeChat went on for around a year, but in May 2014, the Chinese government enlisted a task force to stamp out malpractice on instant messaging apps, in particular rumors and information leading to violence, terrorism, and pornography. WeChat, alongside its rival apps, was required to let the government monitor the activity of its users. And then a 28-year-old whose name has been changed to protect her family is a Uyghur master's student in Istanbul who left Xinjiang in 2014 just before the crackdown. During her undergraduate studies in mainland China, she and her Uyghur peers had already learned to use their laptops and phones with caution. They feared they would be expelled from university if they were caught expressing their religion online. Watch out what you put on Facebook. And just be aware that whatever you put on is not private. And her brother, who was drafted into the Xinjiang police force in the late 2000s, warned her to watch her language while using technology. He always told me not to share anything about my religion and to take care with my words. She did not take part in the widespread WeChat conversations about religion. If her friends sent her messages about Islam, she would delete them immediately and performed a factory reset on her phone before coming home to Xinjiang for the university vacation period. Her precautions turned out to be insufficient. So even that wasn't enough. The monitoring of Uyghurs was not limited to their smartphones. This woman remembers first encountering the facial recognition technology in the summer of 2013. Her brother came home from the police station carrying a device slightly bigger than a cell phone. He scanned her face and entered her age range as roughly between 20 and 30. The device promptly brought up all her information, including her home address. Her brother warned her this technology will soon be rolled out across Xinjiang. All your life will be in the record, he told her. All your life will be in the record, he told her. Yeah? People who have been using Facebook basically all their lives, there's a record of your life. In May 2014, alongside the WeChat crackdown, China announced a wider strike hard campaign against violent terrorism. It was a response to several high-profile attacks attributed to Uyghur militants, including a suicide car bombing in Tiananmen Square in 2013, and in the spring of 2014, a train station stabbing in Kunming, followed by a market bombing in Urumqi. Authorities zeroed in on ethnic Uyghurs alongside Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic minorities in Xinjiang. Okay, so in 2015, she saw devices like the one her brother had shown her being used at police checkpoints every few hundred feet. Her face was scanned by police the moment she arrived at the city gates. I got off the bus and everyone was checked one by one, she said. She was also greeted by devices affixed to the entrance of every supermarket, mall, and hospital. You think this can't happen in America? It can. It can. And we're headed in that direction. And establishing government agencies to limit or to decide the privacy rules is not going to stop it, because it's the government that's doing this in the first place. She was also asked to give DNA and blood samples to the police. This was part of a larger comprehensive campaign by the Chinese government to build a biometric picture of Xinjiang Uyghur population and to help track those deemed non-conformists. Police station was full of Uyghurs, she says. All of them were there to give blood samples. You know, and right now what we see happening on the Mexican border and the border patrol now taking DNA samples to determine whether people are families or not. Those DNA samples will also go into a database. So there is this database being created. And then people giving their DNA on these, Ancestry.com or these other places that say, give us your DNA, we'll tell you where your ancestors came from. See, people are voluntarily giving information that is going to completely destroy their privacy, giving up their DNA. Don't do that, please. Don't do that, all right? You're just helping these people build their database. People are so trusting in the government that it's just amazing. But the government does not have your best interest in mind. You know, it's just not the way it works. Just not the way today's world works. Okay, let's see. We have a little more trouble again. All right. Somehow the websites keep freezing up. Every time I talk about the government surveillance, the sites keep freezing up. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. Yep. All right, let's see what else we can cover during the few minutes that we have left. Chaos erupts as Alabama Senate strips race exception from abortion ban. This is the Alabama, yeah, they passed the zygote bill in the House, but I guess they allowed for an exception for cases of rape, and now the Senate, in considering that same bill, is looking at taking out the rape exception. The Alabama Senate delayed until next week a vote on a bill to ban abortion after an uproar over a key amendment. The Senate abruptly removed a rape and incest exception from the bill without allowing a roll call vote on that decision. The move shocked Senate Minority Leader Bobby Singleton, who had just said at the Senate mic that he wanted a roll call vote on every question concerning the abortion bill. Singleton and other Democratic senators strongly objected to Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth, who presided over the Senate, for his quick gavel on tabling the rape and incest amendment on a voice vote, meaning there is no recorded vote. Ainsworth said he followed Senate rules. As the disagreement simmered, moved to delay a vote until next week. Okay, so anyway, there's this controversy over whether to have the rape and incest exception in this bill. Alabama is trying to outlaw all abortion at any stage of pregnancy. It's a zygote bill. So, of course, Democrats can be expected to oppose that because they do not respect human life, not only in the womb, but even in the moments after actual birth. So I'm sure that they will have a time in trying to destroy this bill. But we hope that the Republicans in Alabama can hold to their determination to get this passed. All right, let's see. We were looking at the Alabama situation. Sanctuary city, Oakland, near broke, but they don't want migrants. I mean, President Trump said, okay, you want to give sanctuary to migrants? Well, fine, we'll send you busloads of migrants. They say, oh, no. We'll use gas tax money to keep the lights on. The city of Oakland is in such dire financial straits that it is planning to use $2.9 million from the state gas tax revenues to keep the city's lights on rather than using the money to fix pothole-riddled roads for which the funding was intended. The San Francisco Chronicle reported Wednesday that the city is facing severe financial shortfalls despite the booming economy that has seen wealthier households relocate from San Francisco across the bay to gentrifying neighborhoods. The problem is that the city's costs are rising faster than its growing revenues, thanks partly to pension obligations, an increasingly common challenge for large Democrat-run cities that made ambitious promises to public sector unions. Ah, yes. Okay. Border Patrol agents contracting illness, another record month for illegal immigration. Beto's long history of failing upward. Yeah. All right. Let's see if anything new has come up on Fox as we get in towards the morning hour when people are starting to come to work, when journalists are starting to come to work now, and we'll see if they are filing anything new here on Fox. Snide send-off, Comey blast Rosenstein, mocks departing Deputy Attorney General for thinking the country needs me. And missing Mama, I wish heaven had visiting hours on Mother's Day. All right, so nothing special happening in the world this morning, it seems. Okay. And least feminist nation in the world, Denmark? Really? Are you sure? The Guardian is a leftist paper, and so they want to find the least feminist nation in the world. Somehow I don't think that's true. It is one of the best places in the world to be a woman with a narrow gender pay gap. So it comes as a surprise to find in a global survey of attitudes towards the gender that Denmark is one of the least feminist countries in the developed world. Just 1 in 6 Danes would label themselves as feminist. Okay. Well, that's another public opinion poll that doesn't seem to mean very much. Okay. Let's see here. Global warming, spring snowstorm breaks 117-year-old record in Minnesota. Up to 16 inches of snow falling in Colorado. Wow. Yeah. But I'm sure that they will enjoy the skiing there then. This doesn't really. I'm trying to. Okay, I see why I prefer Chrome now. Okay. Ted Cruz rips decision, and Facebook co-founder wants government to regulate acceptable speech online. And reported Uber may sell user data to turn a profit. Elizabeth Warren, we need big government. Nobody in America succeeds on their own. Okay, well, if you believe that, there's your candidate, but that's certainly not true. Not true. Big government will bring dictatorship. And that's how dictatorships come about. And the Democrats want a dictatorship. They want their dictatorship because they feel that they are righteous, they are right, everybody else is wrong, and no one else has the right to speak unless they agree with them. Rising Chinese clout in Europe threatens America's way of life, says the experts. If I can get that story to come up, but not really cooperating, is it? Here we go. Okay. Communist China is using its Belt and Road Initiative and other tactics to expand its economic and political clout in Europe at the expense of the U.S.-led liberal international world order and America's way of life, experts told House lawmakers on Thursday. Well, yeah, the Belt and Road Initiative is already taken in Greece. China is now operating a port in Greece, and it's also investing in Italian ports. These countries on the sort of the soft underbelly of the European Union, as you can say. Greece and Italy are two countries that are in economic trouble, and so China is making use of that, taking advantage of that to go in there and start attacking Europe from their underbelly. The expert witnesses also sounded the alarm on a growing China-Russia nexus that some of them believe is converging in Europe, noting that the two U.S. strategic rivals are trying to weaken democracy to accelerate the decline of Western influence. During a hearing Thursday held by the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Europe and Eurasia, Andrea Kendall-Taylor from the Center for New American Securities think tank declared in her written testimony, China's growing economic influence in Europe will translate into political leverage. But, you know, Biden says, hey, no, come on, man, China's not our rival. After he receives $1.5 billion into his son's company. As China economic and political influence grows, it is likely to impact U.S. prosperity and competitiveness. China's rapidly increasing political influencing efforts in Europe and the self-confident promotion of its authoritarian ideals pose a significant challenge to America's way of life. Yeah, China is saying, hey, look at us, we have stability. We have stability. We don't have freedom, that's true, but who needs freedom? We're giving stability. Yes. Although China's economic investments address a genuine demand for infrastructure, Beijing's strategy is designed to lay the foundation for an alternative order and is already eroding international norms and standards. All right? So the Democrats don't care about it. Biden especially doesn't care about that. You know, if Biden were to become president, it would be a tremendous boost for China's Belt and Road Initiative and all that they are trying to do. And China is really serious about supplanting the United States as the world's superpower and becoming the foremost superpower in the world by 2050. Xi Jinping has said this, and his speech has been published. They are not making any secret of their desire to become the world's foremost superpower. And what would that would mean not just a change in the superpower, but it would be a change in morality. Change in morality. You saw what China is doing to the people in Xinjiang and to the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. This will be done throughout the world if China becomes the leading country in the world. So that is why we need to pray for President Trump and pray that God can work through him to protect the Judeo-Christian values that currently govern the world. Thank you for everyone who joined us this morning. This is all the time that we have, and we'll be back tomorrow with more news and more rimas, more words from God's Word. All right, thank you, and have a blessed day. God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come.
One. All right, folks, got lots to discuss, so let's get started. What do you think? Maryland and the District of Columbia have sued. They sued months ago. claiming that President Trump violated the Emoluments Clause. Now, the Emoluments Clause is in the Constitution, and really it wants to prevent public officials, not just presidents, from being beholden to foreign governments. Specifically, it prevents public officials in this country from taking titles or positions in foreign governments or from taking remuneration from foreign governments. And so what the Democrats that run Maryland and D.C. are claiming is because the President of the United States built a hotel in Washington, D.C., a great hotel, by the way, fantastic hotel, and because